Hello everyone, welcome to this wonderful Sunday afternoon set of games here for the Nexus gaming series. I, as always, am Cat Peach, and today I am joined by the ever-lovely, never-imitatable Fear. Fear, I actually forgot to change your name in the caster overlay. I just realized now.
That's fine.
I know there's
But
always something.
I'm labeled as somebody else.
You're currently labeled as Tyro, and you are
Tyro.
very much not. Get you in
That's
there.
okay.
But Fear, how you doing?
No big deal. I'm doing great. I'm super excited to be casting. It's been a little bit for me. I've been taking a little bit of downtime, so super excited to get into some NGS games, see what these guys have cooked up for, new meta. We got Whitemane in the mix. We got a lot of different stuff in the mix, so very excited for these games.
Yeah, we've been seeing a very interesting reception to Whitemane, I think, here at NGS, where lots of bans, and I feel like whenever she is drafted, it's hard to tell how effective she's really being as compared to other supports. But we see her pop up every once in a while. But yeah, so you agree, like, it's just hard to keep track of, is she doing well, is she not? And at the end of the game, the numbers are there, and I'm like, I suppose you did your job.
It's really hard to, it's super hard to tell. Like, she's still easily pickable. I think a lot of people are easily pickable as far as meaning you could pick her off. She doesn't have an escape, but she does seem still to put out a lot of numbers, and she can deliver offensively when she has to. So yeah, it's not like glaring whether she's doing well or not, but I think that says a lot about, balance release. She hasn't had number tweaks yet, so yeah. I think that
so real quick, I actually set this lobby up backwards. If you want to post that in the in-game chat real fast for us to drop this, because Team Snorlax totally supposed to have second ban. So let's see. Thank you.
There we go. Yeah, one person leaves. We can just reset it. Super easy. Tyro on the
I am just all kinds of not with it today.
That's
apparently.
Okay. That's fine. It's no big deal. Just a little bit of a hiccup. So game one, we're going to be playing on Dragonshire.
Yes.
I don't know that I expect to see Whitemane on Dragonshire, but she does hold up pretty well in a four-man situation. And she holds up well in the sort of burst brawly type situations that we might see between bottom and mid lane here. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think she'll appear appropriately. Deckard is obviously sort of a little more high tier, high priority for most teams. It just seems like his power level is a little bit higher than the other supports, so I expect to see him prioritized. But I also would like to see some more offensive type setups with the Whitemane, sort of similar to how you utilize a Karazim when you're playing Genji or Greymane. It's a dive-oriented team. I'd like to see her used offensively to get quick picks.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it takes a lot of additional coordination around something like that as compared to a lot of supports.
Yes.
And so I feel like if a team really feels on their game on any given day, to be able to have that communication and that focus is really key there. So less of a forgiving support overall, which is why I think a lot of folks are still kind of wary of picking her up and don't necessarily see her as much of a threat. As, Decker Kane still getting banned out pretty regularly on these games, so...
Yeah. I feel like she has a very high skill cap. I feel like Decker Kane is extremely impactful, and you can't take away from that, but it's difficult to not be getting a lot of impact from your root and your potions, because the root's such a large area, the potions are easier to hit. But Whitemane, you're talking about mana management and making sure you position so you put your damage output, and also you have to use your heal to put zeal onto certain heroes. So I mean, ultimately, the number of things you're trying to consider while you're playing Whitemane are, a lot more than like, oh, I'm Deckard, I'll just boop, Let's throw potions in the back and then Lornado people away.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the Deckard is so powerful, and you can just sort of walk away from anything right now. He is who I expect to see prioritized, if not banned. And of course, this meta is harboring a lot of really strong meta picks. Medivh and Yrel come to mind, or especially in professional play, are really highly regarded. But we see an Azmodan ban coming out, so everything we just talked might be skewed to the left a bit.
Just a bit. I mean, we were actually talking recently about the prominence of Azmodan still in terms of bans on NGS, because I understand that he has been changed and it has been better, but is Azmodan actually still first ban worthy after kind of the tweaks to that rework? And my gut says no, unless you know there's someone on the enemy team that is a bonkers Azmodan, but that's not necessarily very common.
Yeah, I completely agree with that statement. And if there's a situation where you're going to ban Azmodan, I feel like it's more of an Infernal Shrines or a Volskaya Foundry situation. Like, he seems... I still agree with what you said. I still don't think he's ban-worthy, but he seems stronger in those situations. Dragonshire is about sort of staying in the lane and sustaining, which Azmodan does well, but he's sort of outdone by some other heroes that can be in that off lane. And we got a Yrel first pick, which I think is a very meta, very relevant pick, which could play into an Azmodan no problem.
Would you say it's irrelevant here?
It's totally relevant, actually. She's become absolutely irrelevant.
Absolutely.
But she would play well into an Azmodan, so it is curious. But maybe it's directed. Maybe they have just struggled against high wave clear macro pressure teams on this map. But Johanna Deckard, again, sort of standard now.
Yeah, Johanna kind of is that most prominent tank, I feel. Garrosh used to be the selection, kind of dropped out now. But Muradin kind of also making his way up the ranks as well, so not surprised to see him here, especially paired with that Yrel. And then the Maiev on top of that for that brawl potential and that fight continuation with those tethers later on in the game should surely be interesting to see and see what Happy Accidents decides to follow up with toward the rest of their draft.
Yeah, no Diablo even considered, but that seems more map specific. I do think we'll see Diablo come out on like Infernal Shrines or Battlefield maps like that. Muradin and Johanna are just both particularly strong for their rotational ability and wave clear ability. Muradin for his rotational ability, Johanna for her wave clear ability. But now all we have left for the red team to pick is some range assassin and support, so they're kind of pigeonholed now, and see what we're gonna have coming out on the right side, because we have a lot of, or on the left side rather, we have a lot of options open here with these picks.
Yeah, absolutely, and nothing's really given away either with that Johanna or that Deckard. So trying to think about what follows up any of the roots coming out from Deckard, and I suppose Junkrat can fill that role in Dahaka for that wave clear. I see that being a bit difficult for the Dahaka against that Yrel, but at the very least, once Yrel pushes the lane toward your gates, at least you have those to kind of turtle behind. But typically Dahaka not being as dominant against Yrel as opposed to some of the other offlane options in the game.
Yeah, and we have a Hanzo Abathur, and that's really going to change the top lane matchup a lot. What I was going to say is Dahaka isn't the most dominant, especially early game laner. He definitely clears and stuff strongly. Yrel would bully him a bit, but Yrel on the turn in terms of heroes that bully Dahaka isn't too terrible. Dahaka has a chance to get some stacks, get some essence, maybe play a little slower. But with the Abathur edition, that is not going to be a case at all. The hat on the Yrel is going to be super obnoxious for the Dahaka. He's going to have to play very defensively. And in turn, we got a Zeratul coming out. So this is going to be a really fun game. These are really well thought out teams with meta and high power picks, and they both have strong rotational ability and lockdown. Like, this is going to be a great game, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see how that Zeratul ends up providing impact on this map, and to see on the other side for Happy Accidents, how effective can that solo support Abther be in here? Because I know it's a composition that has its very niche place here in the game, and to see it even coming out at an amateur league level means that, you know, there's got to be some confidence in being able to pull that off effectively here on Dragonshire. So curious to see the success of that overall going into this match. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of final thoughts on these both for Team Snorlax and Happy Accidents, and I think it's gonna be, I don't know. It's dead even for me.
Yeah, it's execution on this one for me. It comes down to, you know, whether Abther can be as prevalent on the map as he wants to, and whether Maev and Hanzo can play safely enough to not need tons of healing.
Absolutely. So we will find out now as game number 1 kicks off. So in the blue, we will have Team Snorlax. We're going to have Noob Slayer on that Decker Kane, Kui on Johanna, Green Pickles on Zeratul. Noob Slayer is moving around a lot. They are going to be on that Junkrat, and on the Dahaka, we are going to have Potato Ninja.
And on the right side, we got Happy Accidents. We have Apparition playing Maev, Ager Bombs on Hanzo, Blue Laguna playing Muradin, Frostwind on Abther, and Park 555 playing Urel.
And almost immediately, the Junkrat grenades coming out to try to get some vision here in the mid lane. Frostwind just hanging out right behind that gate, waiting for the right time to add that hat, add that support. The offlaners immediately rotating up and top there. Park 555 having quite the easy time against that Dahaka, as we talked about in Draft Ball. Ager Bombs hanging out, being the main wave clear in the bottom lane for now.
Yeah, these teams opting for very different strategies in the beginning here. Blue Laguna barely getting the Dwarf Toss out. Under 100 HP, he will be able to get behind the wall. But now the attention is shifted to Park, and the Condemned's going to come out and deal a lot of damage. But ultimately, everyone's just going to walk away.
Yeah, and a great save there from Frostwind with that hat for Blue Laguna, making sure Muradin doesn't fall early. And we're going to have to keep an eye on that reflection to say, to see if Frostwind can keep cutting it really close like that and save the hat for the very last minute to provide those heals, or to see if Snorlax is able to bait it out, maybe get a bit damage a bit faster to prevent the hat from really having an effect immediately.
Yeah, and so Happy Accidents is opting for the 3-1-3 here, while the enemy team is using a 4-1 rotation, but it looks like these strategies are matching up almost exactly right now. Neither team getting caught in rotation quite yet. Blue Laguna's a bit far forward, but I believe he will have Dwarf Toss available.
Yeah, we almost saw Hanzo taking out that Decker Kane in the bottom lane. That Decker trying to contest the Shrine against Hanzo, which is a very interesting 1v1 matchup there. Was able to get away and at least force Hanzo to kind of engage in the situation. But this top lane, Park should be able to hold it over. So Team Snorlax, I'm hoping they will continue to focus their efforts down here in the bottom lane, trying to keep control.
Noob Slayer 76 getting caught a bit in rotation. Apparition trying to deal out some damage, but the counter route going on the Blue Laguna. Dwarf Toss barely getting away again. Blue Laguna really knowing their limits on Muradin and making sure they push it.
Yeah, pushing it real far. Wondering if that'll, once we kind of hit a different scaling point in the game, whether or not that's going to continue to be the case, or if we're going to be able to see Team Snorlax punish that type of last minute pullout a bit more heavily as the game goes on.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I've been keeping my eye on Dahaka and Urel. It's been pretty fairly evenly matched up here. Noob Slayer 76 rotating up when he has to throw a couple potions away of Potato Ninja. Similarly to how the Abther hat is backing up Urel, we are going to have a 2v1 engage here, but Park 555 is actually doing tons of damage to Noob Slayer 76. He might be able to get the 2v1 with the Abther hat here. Lots of potions coming out. That's terrifying. That's crazy.
Yeah, the constant potions keeping Noob Slayer alive in that scenario, and just after that, I'm pretty sure when I moved up there, Uriel was at like 75% health, and at the end of that fight was 100% health. So that healing capability, that fight could have just kept on going. I feel like for a little longer.
She was killing them.
Absolutely, Uriel 2v1 all day, every day here on this map on Dragonshire. Where both teams are still pretty dead, even in experience. No one really having the upper hand, so wondering who's going to get the first pick in this matchup as we're 4 minutes in. No one has fallen just yet. Park gonna go back in, though, and contest yet again against Stahaka. This time, Green Pickle's there for the follow-up. Uriel is able to leap away. The hack comes out from Aperther. She gets some health from that minion wave. The swing comes out, and she is going to live, and the Aperther hat hitting the gate. Not sure if intentional or not.
Just a little too much. Green Pickle getting the Vorpal Blade back in and finishing him off. So that's actually going to be the first blood of the game 5 minutes in. But this bodes well for Happy Accidents, to be honest. They haven't been having Shrine Control. They might give up a Dragon Knight here, but they have fairly even experience in this game and just trying to get towards 10 with the Abathur in your composition. Dragon Knight is going to be taken by Team Snorlax, and they're going to head top immediately, which is unusual.
Yeah, the immediate rotation, rather than pushing, I would think, into that mid lane a bit more, but I'm wondering how much the focus is going to be on trying to take out that top well to make it easier to keep control of that shrine in later parts of the game, but no one coming up here to help. 2 members responding on the other side of things from Happy Accidents, while the rest of Team Snorlax pushing here in mid instead. The lock coming out, the mule coming out as well from Abathur, trying to buy a little bit of time for these structures before they fall. But the damage coming out from Noob Slayer and Green Pickle is just too much, and that mule is pretty much I would say not as effective in that matchup.
I really wonder how it did seem to me like that was a really effective trade by Team Snorlax at first. So hold out, we got the bonds coming out on the Noob Slayer 76. The Noob Slayer 67 is going to be able to help him with the Junkrat mine. They're just going to walk away. But I wondered whether that trade was actually effective enough. They only took out the front walls, but they're now level 10 with Happy Accidents biting at their heels. Apparition is in. The Drip Tire is out, but it's actually killed before it goes off on Maiev. But nice Lornado pushing back Maiev, but too slippery.
Yeah, very slippery there. The Riptire simply taking a lot of damage from that fort as it tried to make the rotation around the other side of Maiev. The focus now, though, for Happy Accidents is trying to build up some macro pressure to help push back these lanes that were pushed in quite a bit during that Dragonite phase for Team Snorlax. So grabbing those camps, making sure they are rotating, clearing out these minion waves, and now with level 10, they can engage if they want to, but probably not in a 2v3. Apparition being able to blink out of the situation, but that was a close call there during that rotation.
Yeah, looking like Aberration was trying to just get out a little bit of poke damage. Overcommitted too much, but not dying, just taking a little bit too much damage in that engagement. And meanwhile, Park 555 pushing the top lane with a bruiser camp, getting that second tower on the front wall and pushing into the well. Also, we're going to probably have a double Uriel situation happening soon. Oh, but there is a little bit of initiation onto Maiev and Muradin in the mid lane. So that is a good pick for Team Snorlax.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm wondering if they're going to rotate to attempt to do something about this Uriel. She is going to essentially take that fort without any issue from Team Snorlax, who instead are going to focus on taking their opponent's siege camp, again building up that pressure on the map as this Dragonite phase is about to begin, capturing the bottom beacon point. And at this point, it's about which team wants to make the aggressive rotation and try to force a team fight over one of these beacons.
What happened there was Dahaka used his dig to rotate aggressively because it just came up. So Dahaka was wanting to defend that top lane, used his dig to aggressively rotate with his team to get the pick in mid, but once he had done that, he had no means of getting back top except manually walk in there. It just allowed Yrel all kinds of time to pressure the top ward. But they're still even on experience, so honestly, Team Snorlax holding it together really well.
Yeah, both of these teams keeping it together as best they can, even with a Dragonite phase earlier, not able to get necessarily a huge lead of experience here. But right now, both shrines controlled by Happy Accidents. So Team Snorlax trying to see if they can defend, but Park right now looking like they might be able to grab this without any issue. I think Noob Slayer might have not had any abilities on available to kind of stall that out a bit, but they're ready to concede this Dragonite, and the push now begins for Happy Accidents here, trying to see if they can somehow get that experience lead off of this objective.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was just a miscalculation on the timing, but anyways, it's no big deal. This Dragonite is going to be pushing down the bottom lane. All 10 members of Team Snorlax are up, or all 10 members, all 5 members of Team Snorlax are up, so they should be able to defend effectively. I don't see this bottom port going down. They probably will lose the well, which is not optimal. So obviously, giving up this Dragonite's not the end of the world, but it's definitely not good in a game that is so dead even.
Yeah, and it's seeming like both of these teams are having a hard time finding the ways to get that experience edge up on their opponents, as the team fights have been kind of few and far between so far, with both of them focusing more on the rotations. But it looks like Blue Laguna wants to go in, pops the Avatar. Apparition going in with Fan of Knives, but not too much, and it looks like the fight's going to reset. But the beautiful concussion mine onto Park, but where it's a Yrel we're talking about here, the hat comes out. Aegir Bombs coming from the back. The damage going on to Noob Slayer, though, trying to back away, trying to take those potions. Can they finally get to kill? The Dragon Arrow coming out, stunning members on the back line of Team Snorlax. Apparition's getting low as well. And Happy Accidents looking really low, looking like they want to disengage from this fight entirely. The Lornado did go out just to try to defend a bit more, but a lot of brawling for no deaths there, Fear.
Yeah, just the clone again, and we're 11 minutes in this game. It's 2 deaths to 0, and we only have about a half a level lead for Team Snorlax, and I wouldn't even say it's from the kills. It's just from superior stoking, superior macro play, just rotating a little faster. Not to mention the waves are just pushed in, because if you look now at the numbers, they're pretty much dead even. I feel like this does play into Avatar's hands, like the super late game, nothing moving type strategy. Although Dahaka has a lot of value in that late game, Dahaka also has strong team presence, and Avatar's ability to split off and then join the fight is a little bit better, I think, on this map than Dahaka. So we'll see how that plays out in the long run. This game could get pretty intense as far as pressure, wear, and because there's really only 1 fort down, and I mean there's no catapult pressure or anything crazy going on yet. So I think something's gonna give pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, both these teams are just grabbing as many camps as possible. So we have camp pressure in every lane from both teams here. There's 1 remaining, and Hanzo getting vision on this bottom bruiser camp. But the members of Team Snorlax not letting that get in their way. They are trying to clear this as fast as possible. They have the numbers advantage, so they should get that fairly easily, and additionally have pressure here in the bottom lane, trying to possibly convert that fort before they get their next dragon in this game.
I gotta say, Aegir Bombs has been doing a phenomenal job of being outnumbered in this bottom lane and clearing effectively and safely, never getting caught out by the Dahaka or any of the other members. But we're going to have an engagement here. Team Snorlax is pushing into this bottom fort, but again, everyone's at 80% HP about 5 seconds into the fight. Just no one is dying. We have a big scroll coming out of Deckard, but again, the DPS is just not there. Park is coming on the back line. Finally, we have Deckard Cain taking a lot of damage. The Void Person coming out, trying to finalize this kill. Noob Slayer is going to fall, as will most likely Potato Ninja. He does have the move well burrowed, but that's not going to be quite enough. 2 kills finally. Oh, 3. That's actually going to turn into 3. Johanna is caught out here. So 3 kills going over 2 Happy Accidents. and but no map control. So they're going to have to take time to get control of the map again. And they barely have an experience lead.
Yeah, barely. They hit 17 just a fraction before their opponents as Frostwind slugging his way up to the top there to try to get control of that beacon. Junkrat, meanwhile, pushing during that engagement there at the bottom, just trying to clear out the camp that we saw up there earlier. And with this Dragonite, that top lane already pushed in, we're going to have to see where Happy Accidents wants to focus their pressure. They take out the rest of the gate for that fort. They're making the rotation possibly to start pushing on the gate in the bottom keep.
I really would like to see them actually take the mid fort here rather than make this move. It just opens up the map to your team a lot more, and considering you still have the mid and top forts, just allows you more control in the what you'd call laning phase, even though there's no more true laning phase at this point in the game. But they are getting a lot of pressure onto the bottom keep, so they've opened this wall up. Dragonite still at about 75% HP. Blue Laguna moving in, getting the Stormbolt on the Noob Slayer 67. Kui is also deep into the lines of Happy Accident. Oh, Zeratul is going to fall with a miscalculation, but Hanzo falling on the backside. Apparition is low. Potato Ninja's pressuring the backline. Nice jump out, and the Dragonite is close to falling. Urel, Murden, and Maiev should be able to evacuate here. But a 1-for-1 trade, they didn't quite get the well. They got a little bit of pressure onto the keep. I'm not sure how much value that's going to net them ultimately.
Yeah, ultimately, at face value, not so much, unless they can follow it up with additional pressure in between the beacon control phase, I feel. So being able to very quickly get the camps when they're available, take control of that bottom camp, since they do even slightly just have control of this bottom lane a little bit into their favor, being able to have that distance to additionally build up camp pressure down here, which Team Snorlax absolutely knows. They're going to grab their own counter pressure with their own siege camp. Both these teams just, again, trying to rotate, grab as much pressure as possible to make sure that experience stays very even. But for the first time, we're seeing a significant experience lead for the members of Happy Accidents, looking like they're going to hit 20 before their opponents here in the late game.
Yeah, and the only time there's a significant experience lead, and it's right before 20. Blue Laguna waiting in the bush, looking like he might be looking for something. Don't think he wants to initiate onto Kui or Potato Ninja. Will just throw out a Stormbolt to threaten, and both teams are going to disengage. But they have finally taken an experience advantage, and it's right before 20. You have that, but they're on the map. I would really like to see Happy Accidents start to sort of choke this out a bit more, but it's tough. They have to make a move once they hit level 20 because their opponents aren't going to be that far behind.
Yeah, and there always is that pressure to capitalize on those experience gains of that talent gain. And sometimes that can lead to teams overstepping, but it looks like Potato Ninja is the one overstepping here in the top. The 4-man gank coming out from Happy Accidents converts the kill onto the dinosaur, and the immediate rotation into mid as well to clear this lane. And that is a fantastic pick to get before this phase begins. Junkrat had started on that bottom camp, ends up concussion mining out of there, knowing that the rotation was probably going to come down there right after.
Yeah, I loved that aggressive rotation. They rotated on Team Snorlax's side of the map, and Dahaka was sort of locked in an engagement already, not realizing the rotation was coming, and then overestimated the ability of his move well burrowed level 16 talent. Just wasn't quite enough. But now 20 is achieved for Team Snorlax, and only 20 seconds till Dahaka is up. I don't think that's going to be enough for them to pressure this top keep unless Team Snorlax is totally caught off guard, which it looks like they are. They're starting to hurt now, but I don't know if they'll be able to react in time. Apparition, Park, and Aegir Bombs are dishing out the damage. Green Pickles is moving out of the backline, though. If they're not careful, Void Person comes down on 2 members. Aegir Bombs backing up. Blue Laguna is late to the party, but Green Pickles is caught out, taking a lot of damage. Zeratul falls on the front line, too deep on the back line, and Aegir Bombs just dishing out the damage. Potato Ninja uses his stasis. He's still low on HP. Apparition having to back up. Mainly the focus of a lot of these fights. Oh, a huge root coming out of Decker Gain. Will it be enough? No. Apparition again, almost killed by the grenade in the backline. Jeez, those were so close, and they can't quite get the keep, but also they win the fight. So, I mean, I guess that really did work out for Happy Accidents. That was a happy accident.
That was definitely a happy accident in a way. But like you said, not able to convert that keep, and it's so low there too. So great defense coming out from Team Snorlax there, even though they did end up losing a couple members in that fight. But at the very least, they don't have the catapult pressure to worry about at this given point in time. But Apparition already positioned here to get this Dragon Knight for Happy Accidents, who are probably going to, if pattern serves correctly, rotate down to that bottom lane, finish off that keep, and potentially end the game.
Yeah, I think they have the ability to. Dahaka won't be up for another 4 or 5 seconds, so their positioning won't really be optimal. And when you're pushing on this bottom lane, it's one of my most frustrating things. You see they're already pinging that bush. There's only one bush Dahaka can come from, and Potato Ninja is super deep in the backline. Green Pickle's also looking for something, but I don't think Void Prison is quite available yet. No, it's not. And Aegir Bombs is too far forward using the natural agility, but Riptire is going to rip him. That was the clone, actually, but Aegir Bomb's falling to the Dahaka, and this might be a defense. Core is falling quickly. Dragon Knight has a lot of HP. Can they mount the defense? It looks like all the members of Happy Accidents are going to be nice and healthy. And ooh, Void Prison coming out. Frostwind trying to do as much as he can on the Murder Clone. It is going to be enough.
Yeah, and game number 1, going over to that solo support Abathur that some teams love and some teams think is the bane of this meta's existence. It's definitely an interesting one for sure, but glad to see that here in NGS that seems to be having a lot of success from what I have seen. And taking a look at those numbers at the same time, quite the numbers coming out for healing for Frostwind on that Abathur, for sure.
Yeah, but 41k.
We see on Park that Urel, just the amount of siege that happened in that game that didn't necessarily go too long either.
Yeah, she just does so much with just being able to spam her abilities with her trait cooldown use. She just constantly gets tons of value. The Abathur hat on top of the Urel, it's a difficult thing to deal with. But overall, that was a very high-level game. From the draft to the gameplay, everything about that was very high level in execution and in strategy. The solo support Abathur is not something that's easy to pull off. And in turn, Team Snorlax defended well, played the counter macro well. I just think they weren't able to create enough of an advantage over Abathur early. And Dahaka is usually a big tool in creating advantage over Dahaka early, or over Abathur early. And I think Urel put a huge damper on that. So well executed by Happy Accidents. That was not an accident. That was definitely part of their strategy.
But it was happy.
It was definitely happy for them, and but just overall an extremely high level game here in NGS. And we're gonna be moving on to Volskaya for game 2.
Yeah, Volskaya Foundry being picked by Happy Accidents themselves. Given that Team Snorlax now knows Happy Accidents isn't afraid to run that solo support Abathur, is that worth a ban here on Volskaya, would you say?
For the Abathur?
Yeah.
I think it probably is, especially considering that you just saw it. It was well executed, and you lost to it. Volskaya Foundry is another map that it's extremely strong on. Or do you move in the direction? Does the Azmodan ban read as we think Azmodan is sort of the anti-Abathur Urel pick that we have here, and we think it's the solution? Is that why they're banning it? Maybe try to get your hands on that if they're not banning it. But I'd say that's a safe bet. Just get rid of it. You can always try to play games with picking it away and all that kinds of stuff, but if you don't want to deal with it, just ban it.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of, looking at the bans from the last game, maybe that Phoenix or that Genji on Volskaya aren't worth the ban. Genji not being picked up as often as he used to be, except for in very particular situations, but definitely not as often seen in that first couple of rotations during the draft. So I wouldn't mind Team Snorlax giving up a couple of those quote-unquote standard bans to instead focus on that URL, focus on that Abathur, which you can also argue are standard depending on the map and the day and the teams. So I think that causes, if I were on Team Snorlax, probably a shift in how we're thinking about approaching Volskaya overall. And now having all these additional variables to consider when they're thinking about what are those bans, what do we want to pick up, is this something we're afraid that they're going to draft 2 times in a row?
I think you just have to split it up. It's like one of those things where the combo is devastating. You just have to split it up however you want, ban one or the other, or take one or the other. It seems like Urel. I'm guessing the high priority Urel ban will be the solution here. That's really what I'm thinking. Is you prioritize your railband highly, she is very effective, and then Abathur definitely has a lot of other targets he can play around with, Murd in particular, but nothing as dominating in the offlane that's so soul-crushing against the opposing. Like, you're playing against the best offlaner, who's like ultra impossible to kill with crazy sustain, and also give her an Abathur hat, which just gives her more crazy damage and more unlimited sustain. It's just very frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, looking at the bans from last game, we saw the Hammer ban from Happy Accidents, and if there's one map that Sergeant Hammer has made quite the comeback on, Volskaya Foundry, is definitely one of those. So do we see that become a higher priority ban, or do we think one of these teams has the ability, based on how they played last game, to draft that Hammer very early on this battleground?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Nothing about the last game's draft implied that Hammer would be a high priority for these teams, but I don't know. Maybe they have different strategies prepared for Volskaya. I definitely agree with you that she's extremely strong. It does require a little bit of a different playstyle, but it's kind of easy to play on this map. The way the map is set up and the way the points are set up are kind of really easily accessible for Hammer. So yeah, I think I'd expect to see it in the middle picks. I think we'll see it played in this game, or maybe the third bans. I don't think we're going to see it in the initial 4 bans, or really the top 5 picks, first 5 picks, but that's possible. We might see it on the 2-3, but I don't think it'll be top.
Well,
but of course, I've been known to be wrong.
That's the fun part about casting and trying to theorize all the drafts, is that there are actually, even though people believe there's only 6 heroes that really show up in this game, that you could be way off here trying to predict these drafts, especially with the introduction of the third ban. But yeah, let's see if Happy Accidents can take this to a 2-0 in their favor, or if Team Snorlax maybe has something up their sleeve that they can bring out in this game to get a point on the board for themselves.
Yeah, I find my strength lies in late draft predictions. Once the game plans are laid out a little bit more, I can usually get into the team's head. Well, Genji first ban, and Asmodan first ban. So those are the same. Those seem like the heroes that each team just don't want to deal with. So with the Asmodan first ban being the same, you've got to get rid of Urel or Abathur here. I really feel like Urel. Yes.
Good. Yes, I'm also very glad, because Park on that Urel just had a field day for most of that game of Dragonshire. So taking that out and not giving that tool, I think, opens up Team Snorlax to a lot more success in the offlane, and even in those rotations to try to harass the offlane that a couple of times they tried to get those kills onto Urel and it just didn't work out.
It's so hard anyway. It's so hard with the hat. So now let's see what we have. Priority pick coming out on Volskaya. I do expect to see Diablo highly prioritized as well. He can exploit the geometry on these points so extremely well. At this point, Diablo and Deckard are your power picks. Phoenix still has a lot of power in this meta, and I feel like is sort of undermentioned, even though he's performing really well.
Yeah, when Phoenix does come out, so long as I feel like he's paired with the right heroes, making sure you get that Thrall or you get that Diablo to follow up for that heroic overlaying, lots of success with that Phoenix. But I think a lot of teams have come so comfortable with expecting that there's ways at this point to get around it. And one of those ways to get around it is with that bunker from Blaze. Purification Salva comes out, everyone in the bunker, essentially negating the entire heroic. So part of the risk there in picking heroes that can be so easily countered by that kind of defense.
Yeah, I just feel like the priority is a little misplaced on the Phoenix. You could easily be picked in your 2-3 and offer less chance, to offer less chance for counter like you talked about, because you really just offer that up really soon. We do see Muradin prioritized for Team Snorlax. Tank's not nearly as high priority as last time. Garrosh does rise in priority himself a little bit here, and you know you're playing into a Muradin, who Garrosh kind of excels into. Garrosh hurts a little bit more into Diablo and Johanna, but now you know you're playing into a Muradin, and you have a Deckard as backup. It's a little harder to hit the Deckard route and follow-up than, say, a Malfurion, but I feel like the tank options for Happy Accidents are wide open, and honestly, they can just sit on it till their very last pick, which is what I would do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even though we kind of see a main subset of warriors and main tanks in the game, that there's still so many that aren't played as often that can kind of go in there. And my favorite example is ETC. We don't see ETC drafted very often, but he can, so long as you know how to play around him and know that he's a bit softer than the other main tanks, be able to really utilize on that mosh pit. But we are going to see the Garrosh, and we're going to see the follow-up from Jaina there.
This is just a safe, reliable combo, right? Blaze, Deckard, follow-up, Jane, follow-up. This is just like a simple sort of old-school thing. To speak to your ETC, ETC's been showing up a bit in HGC, been experimented with. It looks like he hasn't had too much success, but I agree. I mean, ETC's ability to turn around a fight or a game is extremely high, and just like we talked about, we got the Hammer Li Ming coming out. I like that pick together. Li Ming is strong against Hammer, so sort of taking away that pick. But look at this. This is a solo frontline Muradin. Yes, Alex Raza is beefy. Yes, I'm talking about HP, not thickness. But Muradin's going to have a hell of a time. He can Dwarf Toss out. So he will try to bait the tosses from Garrosh, but any other member of this team gets caught. They all do have some pseudo escape, Phoenix being the best, but it could be scary if you get caught by this Jaina Deckard Blaze Garrosh.
Yeah, just the thought of, if the taunt doesn't land enough, then you have the Dragon Arrow. And if you need additional setup for that, you have the jet propulsion from Blaze, you have the roots coming in from Deckard. You have Ring of Frost to follow up any of that control there. So lots of options in the pocket, I think, for Happy Accidents, where Team Snorlax, they're strong heroes and it can be a strong composition, but there's one avenue, I think, for that team composition to succeed, where there's a bit more flexibility for how Happy Accidents wants to approach going into this next game.
Yeah, well, I feel like basically Snorlax's approach is, okay, we're going to poke you forever until we win and you just have to back up. And Happy Accidents is like, okay, well, we're going to get the pick, we're going to combo you. Problem with that is playing slow all the time. You have to be meticulous. You can't give up mistakes. You have to take inch by inch, push in with the hammer, make sure your positioning is all good. Muradin overextends, it's too much. So we'll see if they can play without mistakes. But let's go ahead and do the introductions here.
Yeah, so Team Snorlax trying to get a point on the board here in game number 2. We're going to have Green Pickles on Phoenix, Kui on Li Ming. We're going to have Noob Slayer 67 on Muradin, while Noob Slayer 76 will be on Li Ming.
And on the right side, once again, we have Happy Accidents. Apparition on the Hanzo. Frostwind playing Deckard Cain. Blue Laguna on Garrosh. Park 555 on Blaze. And Aegir Bombs on the Jaina.
And Potato Ninja sieging up immediately. The rest of Team Snorlax going to have to try very hard to make sure that hammer is protected here. Blue Laguna, as we saw last game, not afraid of getting too front into things, but the flip onto Noob Slayer ends up, I think, not necessarily in the best position, at least disrupted for a little bit and gets away just fine thanks to the armor that Garrosh was able to build up given the loss of health.
And a little bit of kind of crazy decision making there. Happy Accidents decides to rotate top. Team Snorlax was immediately rotating bottom, but then when they saw Happy Accidents was going top, there's a bit of hesitation. Now they've rotated top, and they're way behind on the wave clear because of it. They all sort of hesitated, mixed around mid, and it's put them behind on wave clear. It's put them behind on this first turret camp already, and Happy Accidents rotating back in on the top, getting the top wave cleared out as well. So just a slight weird hesitation. I just happened to look at the minimap at the right time and noticed it, but it looks like they're back on track. Camps will be dying at similar times, and they're getting a little more stabilized.
Getting stabilized. It's very risky for Potato Ninja, I feel, to be in this position by themselves. But the members of Happy Accidents not necessarily looking to push into that circle of death too quickly, even for the potential to get that early pick. And talking about solo lane, so Park, for the first part of this game, was versus Kui in the bottom, and simply dominating there. Kui just kind of tickling the big fire bat rather than really be able to do much about his presence there. Happy Accidents focusing on the support camp, the item so important in this game. We're going to have to see if Team Snorlax can get a pick in this engagement, but it looks like Happy Accidents, the damage coming out there, takes out Phoenix, and then that finishing arrow from Apparition takes out that Sergeant Hammer. Beautiful engage coming out from them, and that is a free support camp as well for them. Not free, they earned it. They earned it pretty hard.
They earned that, and it was incredibly well done. Deckard had a nice opening scroll, hit 3 members, and the follow-up with the jet propulsion was a huge stun, and then the damage was easy. They were all just standing in a choke, and that's what I mean about Team Snorlax's comp. They want to slowly poke you down, but to do that, you have to play over an extended period without making mistakes. Happy Accidents just wants to barrel in and combo you with Jaina. And if you step too far forward, you make a positional mistake, you all pile into a choke, it can get real scary real fast with the amount of follow-up or setup they have for the Jaina. Either way, basically everyone on this team both sets up and follows up in pretty fantastic fashion. So Blue Laguna just moving right in. Potato Ninja getting thrown in, but it's actually Noob Slayer 67 able to create a bit of area with a Stormbolt, getting into the middle of Happy Accidents. We have Dragon Queen popped very early. Noob Slayer 76 moving in, and all Team Snorlax. We have the jet propulsion to get out, secure the evacuation. So they'll just give up the point here while the Dragon Queen runs out. They have 72%. Dragon Queen is over, so should be able to create some pressure soon.
Yeah, should be able to create some pressure. Blue Laguna and Aegir Bombs cleaning up that wave in the top that had that camp pushing during that first part of the objective. So cleaning that up, and the rest in the team now, I think, going to work on finishing off having an additional turret here, but neither Apparition or Frostwind can actually pick it up. Park gonna come down, pick that up. And now they just have a slew of items at their disposal to come back in and control this control beacon. The members of Team Snorlax immediately pushing off of it, knowing that they aren't necessarily ready to engage just yet, but they're going to have to do something if they don't want to give this first protector over to their opponents.
Yeah, this is tough because Team Snorlax actually will probably have to give this up because they can't fight with the items, but you also have to make the enemy team use the items. Blue Laguna getting really deep, going low before getting the toss, but actually managing to pick off Sergeant Hammer. Still getting very low, but don't forget, when Garrosh gets low, his armor goes way up, and he's nearly impossible to kill. A huge jet propulsion coming out of Park 555. picking off Alexstrasza, and just like that, they're going to secure the first protector, no problem.
And that was a slick couple kills coming out again from Happy Accidents. The focus onto that hammer followed onto the damage from Alexstrasza, securing them this early protector. We're seeing the focus on the mid, taking out some of that, but rotating then up to the top where we know this next control point in this game will spawn. So trying to get out this wall, take out that well, making sure it's set up in favor of Happy Accidents before we get to that phase.
Yeah, it's such a difficult place to be playing from Team Snorlax. You're playing the poke comp and you're trying to play from behind. Green Pickles has not had an opportunity to create a lot of team fight impact. They've spent so much time trying to clean up these waves. They are going to manage to get the front wall and well there. Happy Accidents is, and that's exactly what they were looking for. Now they have about a full level advantage moving into level 10, which is going to give them more item control, which is going to give them more point control and more experience control. It's going to be difficult. They're looking for the pick on Park 555 with the Jet Propulsion securing his safety, and Murden dwarf tossing in aggressively and actually costing his life.
Yeah, costing his life, trying to get the rotation to get a pick to bring that experience a little bit closer to get a win before Happy Accidents hits level 10, but it backfires in such a tremendous way, and Murden ends up falling instead of getting the pick onto that Blaze. So, you know, you've been talking about the poke-centric composition here, and those kinds of really risky engages where you're only 4, I don't think are going to work in the long term for Team Snorlax, but desperate times call for sometimes desperate calls, and I think that's really what that came down to.
I agree, and level 10 was right on the horizon. They were seeing if they could get a pick right before level 10, so even if they were gonna get level 10 behind Happy Accidents, they'd sort of create a window in which they could soak safely, not have a fight happen. In retrospect, just losing Muradin while you're at the 10 disadvantage, not that big of a deal. Not gonna put them that far behind. They were basically already had to surrender map control because they were down a heroic. So yeah, I mean, it was actually, I wouldn't call it a smart play because they gave up the kill, but it had reasoning behind it. It definitely was not just an intentional run it down like some people might interpret a move like that. It definitely had a lot of intention behind it.
And 2 mages facing off here in the top lane, but the rotation from Happy Accidents, know that Kui went up, the immediate dissolving of that health, picking up the turret. That Li-Ming did drop there. Now Park going in on Green Pickles, the shields are down, but being able to back up just a bit and play behind the fort for the time being. The stun goes out onto Noob Slayer 76. Alexstrasza is taken out, and it's going to give Happy Accidents now the ability to take out this mid fort as well, and they are still sitting very pretty at a level and a half experience lead over Team Snorlax, who are probably going to have to give up this next protector, given that the level 13 advantage for their opponents is just on that horizon.
Yeah, Happy Accidents has clearly been playing World of Warcraft lately because they are crazy for loot. They've got all the items, and this game is so difficult when you're already at a talent and compositional disadvantage to try to run into 2 of the healing totems and turrets. The problem is you have to give up. You're down a talent here, you have to give this up ultimately, but you have to also force your opponent to use the items, because if you don't force your opponent to use the items, they just have them later. So it's a difficult balance, and you also have to really watch your positioning. I'm watching Potato Ninja here. They're going for the big collapse, Park 555, looking for a Jet Propulsion. They have the wrap on Kui and Noob Slayer. Noob Slayer popping the Avatar, it's not going to be enough. Dwarf Toss actually getting him out. Alexstrasza is on Ruby Wings now, dishing out a lot of damage onto the backline of Happy Accidents. Aegir Bomb's under 300 HP. This is actually working for Team Snorlax.
Yeah, but they just used 4 out of their 5 heroics in that fight. We still have 3 up for Happy Accidents, and so even though it's looking like Team Snorlax is going to get a short amount of cap here, their opponent's probably not afraid to go back in, but the Dragon Queen is continuing to make Happy Accidents fear for that kind of engagement. So they're just kind of turtling near their gate, waiting for it to expire. before they can really go in. And there it is. The sun was on to Blue Laguna, but they are going in. Ults are up. And they are going for it. The support camp comes out. The laser coming out from Queen. Purification salvo trying to convert a kill. Hammer ends up falling as well as Murden. Blue Laguna getting so low there with that armor protecting the jet propulsion coming out from Park. Securing the kill on Alexstrasza. And finally Phoenix going to the wind. A full team white for Happy Accidents, giving them full control of this beacon. 99% was had for Team Snorlax, and they just couldn't stay alive to finish it up.
I am Happy Accidents' biggest new fan because nothing they've been doing has been an accident. Everything is so intentional, so well thought out with so much coordination. They were up the talent tier. They had the number of heroics advantage, but they knew they had the cooldown advantage. They were just waiting for Lornado and Taunt, probably didn't even need them, and just as soon as there were 3 seconds left, Garrosh just walked up. I said, oh, here come the heroics, and they absolutely dominated the fight. Team Snorlax was not able to move out quickly enough. Now Team Snorlax making a desperate attempt, but they are not at level 13, and that is a 3-man jet propulsion coming out into a 3-man scroll from Decker Kane, Green Pickles, and Noobslayer actually almost walking away. Another follow-up jet propulsion. Noobslayer 67 will fall along with Alexstrasza. So now another 2 members dead for 25 seconds, plus the Protector pushing down the top lane. This is getting scary.
Yeah, and early in that fight, the flip went on to Alexstrasza, who then got taunted, separated from the rest of the team, followed up from the Blizzard with Jaina, and that Dragon Queen just ended up melting so fast, setting them up for a great defense of holding that beacon. And now they have this Protector. They're looking at the keep. The damage is coming out. All members are back, but I'm not necessarily sure the members of Team Snorlax can really defend this or really even counter engage afterwards, given the 16 advantage on the side of Happy Accidents.
Yeah, the Protector's still at about 1/3 HP. They're moving down onto the middle keep. Tato Ninja taking some damage in the back, trying to defend the Protector, stunning Blaze, but that won't be enough. The jet propulsion follow up onto the toss on Phoenix, and that's too much. Phoenix having a really tough time in this game, and I think, like we said, the such high priority on Phoenix has really been detrimental. But Park, wow, nearly falling, but the bunker and Jaina just getting erased by Li Ming. Li Ming getting some resets. Will the dream become real? But low on HP, low on mana. The water elemental really almost killing Kui there. Jaina completing her quest while dead.
That says something.
Yeah, that water elemental was wailing away. It was doing lots of damage.
Yeah, and Kui got so close to taking out, I believe it was Blaze with that second disintegrate as well from the reset, and the jet propulsion saving them from the situation. So great that they were able to get a pick in that scenario and be able to push off the members of Happy Accidents from their camp, but it's definitely nowhere in the clear for them at this point. They are still significantly down in structures and in levels. And they desperately need to get that level 16 if they want to keep themselves in this game, or I feel like the next engagement is going to be pretty catastrophic on their side.
Yeah, I agree, and the problem with the slow play style is when your opponent is way up and forcing the pace, you really can't control it. You can't concede enough ground at this point while being defensive. Noobslayer 67 with a very aggressive rotation, finding the whole team of Happy Accidents, but they are grouped up, and they also have 2 healing pulses and a turret available. While on the side of Team Snorlax, I don't think we have any items at all. We do have 1 turret on Green Pickles, but the thing is, Team Snorlax needs to get on even talent tiers. They actually looking like they are going to be able to soak it. And now Happy Accidents is going to force the issue on bottom, just forcing themselves towards 20. So now, Team Snorlax is level 16, and Happy Accidents is level 18. Team Snorlax needs to try to force the fight, but they have a poke comp, and Happy Accidents is going to be just racing for a level 20 now. So this is going to be interesting watching a poke comp try to force the issue, and we'll see whether or not Happy Accidents just continues their same strategy. Throwing Muradin, but the Dwarf Toss will be available.
Yeah, the rotation coming out in mid to try to stop the rotation from Team Snorlax before they can make it down to that beacon phase. The vision is onto Potato Ninja from that Sonic Arrow. The other thing about that push from Happy Accidents is, as we were talking before, they took out the fort, they took out the well here that would have given so much to Team Snorlax had it stayed alive for this beacon control. Blue Laguna was alone, but not enough of a quick rotation to capitalize on that kind of pick. But this is going to be so incredibly difficult, I feel, for Team Snorlax to get this protector. We're seeing Blaze alone pushing, threatening a core call, trying to force the members of Team Snorlax back to their base at the same time. But they're trying to get this fortification camp for the time being to help with the defense if they need to split up.
And so this Kui rotating here, and you mentioned earlier Kui trying to lane against Park 55, and I think Happy Accidents just really picking apart one of the most core things that's wrong with this Team Snorlax composition. There's no real off-lane wave clearer. The Sergeant Hammer is being played by Potato Ninja, who was playing off-lane last game, but Sergeant Hammer is forced to play with the composition. While Park is actually aggressively rotating down on the Potato Ninja. Blue Laguna moving in. It's looking like they're going to be able to get the catch on Hammer. The healing coming out from Alex Trezza might be enough to save him, maybe. But will it really matter? No, it's not enough. And now Noob Slayer themselves is in trouble. But with the no-wheel wave clear, you got Li Ming clearing against a Blaze late game. That is a difficult situation.
Yeah, it's absolutely difficult, like you said, and Happy Accidents now sitting real comfortable with that level 20, prepping this bottom lane, taking out the gate, even though they don't really need to if they wanted to, but it just makes the path that much quicker for that protector once it is no doubtedly going to be achieved on their side. They're already to 60% on that beacon, able to take this fortification camp that'll help with that push as well if they so choose. And the options are very few for Team Snorlax of how to defend this. They can definitely defend, I feel, against this protector with that siege coming out from Hammer, but it's more about whether or not Happy Accidents are going to force the engagement along with the protector onto that Hammer to not allow that defense.
They've got 5 items, 3 healing pulses, 2 turrets. I don't know that they can defend this. They do have Salvo, they do have the Bully Bullet, and Avatar Disintegrate. That all of that stuff is very hard to push into, you're right. But I don't know how strong at 18 minutes this protector will actually be. Park taking a lot of damage from Hammer on the front line. And actually Li Ming rotates back around, flanks on Hanzo. Now the team of Happy Accidents is all in on this core. Bunker pops, but all the members are low. Aegir Bomb's going to, wow, ice blocking barely the BFG coming out, but I don't think that's going to be enough. All 3 members falling, but the protector is extremely high health. Core at 50%. Think that's gonna be plenty of HP left. Yeah, they're gonna pull this off.
Yeah, the Cleansing Flame coming out, trying to do as much damage as possible, but it does not heal the core. GG's over to the side of Happy Accidents. They take this series 2-0 today. And what a fantastic performance in that second game. Just absolutely understanding what it is that their composition was all about, forcing those team fights, making sure they were getting those couple of picks. They got a team wipe early on as well, but even calling it even at the 2, sometimes 3 in a lot of those engagements, being able to swing the entire game around in their favor.
Yeah, both games, like I said before, methodical, well thought out. Whoever is sort of shot calling and decision making for this team seems to have a level head, although they played both games from even or above, so it's hard to say that with, you know, certainty, because they didn't really have to fight their way back in any situation. But as far as opening up win conditions, knowing how to play the maps, knowing the strong pips on the maps, I feel like Happy Accidents had all that well thought out in advance, and it looked good. It looked really good.
Absolutely. It looks like we're actually going to have Park hanging for us in Lobby 1, so let's move up there and ask him a couple questions about how that series went.
All right. I was
Hello!
too
I
easy.
got you. I got you, fan. Park! How you feeling after that? You went 2-0 today.
Good.
Just good. A single good. I like it. Uh, so we were actually, I think, somewhat surprised about the solo support Abathur coming out in game number 1. How we're seeing a lot more teams pick that up, I think, more consistently than I think initially a lot of us thought that composition would succeed in. Do you think that it's more viable than a lot of people give credit for, or do you think that it's still very niche, very particular, and you just had a really good set of circumstances to run it?
No, I think it's a pretty flexible composition, to be honest. I think that honestly the difficulty is just that it's a very different style, so people don't run it as much, but I don't think that it's like a cheese comp. I think that it's a legit thing.
Very cool. And throughout that game, I mean, we saw that dominance with the Abathur hat, with that URL pushing into the top lane. Your opponents, for the most part, were able to brawl at par. For most of that game, you both were at very similar experience points, and things were kind of swinging in both ways, not a lot of engagements. What do you think ultimately led to your team's success in that game 1?
I don't know, probably them feeding a couple of times. But like the if you play solo support Abathur, you really don't want to fight. If you're having a lot of engagements and they're not like 2v2s or 3v3s, you're basically doing it wrong. Really the goal was just to scale into the late game, put a lot of map pressure on. Ideally, you get ahead in experience at that point, but we didn't. But you can do Abathur, since he's a global, he lets you skirmish incredibly well. So the idea is that you just win small skirmishes across the map and accumulate enough map pressure to the point where you can either force a Merc camp or force Dragon or something of the like, and then eventually late game you just run it down bot lane.
Very cool. Awesome. Fear, I will pass it over to you.
I just wanted to say great job. I want to ask, I know you were playing the off-lane role, but where do you guys feel like Whitemane fits in right now? We were just discussing it a bit before. It's sort of hard to tell where she fits and how effective she is in competitive play. So how do you guys feel about her? I mean, you don't have to give too much away, but where do you at least feel she fits compositionally, or what heroes do you think she works well with?
I think Whitemane, she's probably best used in really aggressive teams because she's one of the few heroes that can almost keep up with dive, not by her actually diving in, but by the fact that she can just throw a Q on someone and then continue to deal damage to like the enemy front line and still heal, say like a Genji or a Tracer. I don't think that she does as well when basically I think you pick Whitemane when you're looking for a aggressive team that you don't need CC on your support necessarily.
Okay. Which is a pretty niche, interesting thing. So you're talking about it, she seems to have a bit of a high priority, but yeah, we just weren't able to figure it out. Otherwise, I mean, I got to say, you guys looked really well practiced and organized. You guys when you're practicing, it looks like you guys are utilizing a lot of the things that, at least the way your gameplay reflects, it looks like you guys are utilizing the practice techniques that a lot of the top competitive teams do, like in HGC and top of the Open Division. Is that fair to say you guys do a lot of replay and draft analysis?
I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit too much to say that we practice like HGC teams, but like
yeah, at least mimicking their techniques. You know, I understand that they're scrimming and stuff, but
yeah, I mean we do replay analysis. We do talk about drafts to a fairly large degree.
Okay.
I don't know. Apart from that, a lot of it is just like trial and error, practicing specific things, that sort of stuff.
Cool.
Cool, very cool. Well, congratulations again, and before we let you go, we will give the floor out to you for any shout-outs you have.
Yeah, shout out to Cavalier Guest and the Nexus Schoolhouse for teaching me basically everything I know about the game. Also, shout out to Epic Soars for teaching me solo support Abathur. I think that's it.
Oh, very cool. Congratulations and good luck with the rest of your time here in Season 5, and have a great rest of your weekend.
Thanks, you too.
All right, thanks. Whew! All right, Fear. Game 1 down, but we are not done yet. But before we go to that, first of all, thank you very much, Ghost Bear, for the bit cheers and for Odd Thought for that raid earlier today. Hope all your friends were enjoying the games here tonight. But we have another series starting at 6:30. We're going to have over in Division C East. I thought it was West. It's actually East. We're going to have Team Scorpius versus Hogs of the Storm. So we'll be getting to that in just a few minutes. Actually, about 20. So take a break, grab a beer, or grab a non-alcoholic beverage. If you are not old enough to drink, don't do drugs. And we will be back shortly, so see you in a bit.